You stay on a good healthy food plan, meaning good quality meats and protein in the morning, lots of protein in the morning and the afternoon, less in the evening, good quality vegetables the whole time. And then also we want to make sure we're sleeping well. So going to sleep, trying to go to sleep at the same time every night, trying to get that at least the 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. After pregnancy loss, I think it's so important to heal physically, emotionally, have good support. I like to start with good food. If we're eating food that's full of sugar, refined sugar especially, then our blood sugar level is going to peak and then bottom out, and that's going to just add to our stress and not feeling well. So we want to eat a good healthy, stay on a good healthy food plan, meaning good quality meats and protein in the morning, lots of protein in the morning and the afternoon, less in the evening, good quality vegetables the whole time. And then also we want to make sure we're sleeping well. So going to sleep, trying to go to sleep at the same time every night, trying to get that at least the 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And sometimes it's easier said than done when we're under a lot of emotional strain. But I find it's really important to be very gentle on ourselves. And maybe if we're used to achieving and doing X amount during a day, being okay with, hey, that doesn't all have to be done. Not everything has to be in order. Let's think about taking care of our bodies and minds and souls at this point. And that goes for both the mom and the dad that lost the baby. This is a really tough time. So to be gentle on ourselves and compassionate to each other, and that's going to be the most supportive thing we can do. And when it's time, like if we can open up to each other, great, talk about our feelings. Lots of times we just need to be heard, and we don't need to be fixed, and we don't need to find any solutions on what's the next step or what are we going to do. We can talk about those things if that's going to feel helpful, but we don't need to. I think the most important thing is just to feel our feelings that we're going through with this loss. It's really, really, really tough. And I found through our own journey and our own pregnancy loss that it's really important to interact at that time with people that are supportive. Not everyone understands. Not everyone's been through a pregnancy loss. And some people might not think it's a big deal at all, and that might be hurtful to spend a lot of time with those people. So spending time and communicating with those people that are compassionate, that say, hey, I'm so sorry. Even if they haven't been through it, they can imagine that and see that you are hurting. Wonderful. Let's surround ourselves with those type of people that are supportive. And then my husband and I personally, we found a support group that's happened to be run by a nurse that's been established in our area for a while. And it was so wonderful because we met monthly, I believe, or every other week, with a group of couples that had gone through losses. And everyone's story was a bit different, but we all were there because we had lost a baby. And it's so hard. It's so hard to know that you're not alone. It's so important to know that. And it helped heal us so much to be compassionate and listen to these stories and see their sorrow and their loss and feel so much for them because we knew what they're going through, because we were going through it too. And there's just something so healing about that. So, it might not be for everyone to join a support group like that, but for us, I think it made a big difference in our journey. I also found help with going to see a therapist and doing some trauma work, because absolutely losing a baby can be a very traumatic event. So there are specific therapies, including EMDR, that help actually disperse the trauma that can get stuck in our bodies and cause us physical problems. So I think that's a really great way as well to heal and be gentle with ourselves. Great ways that I found really helped me heal from our pregnancy loss. I wanted to capture that time we had with our sweet baby girl, Lily Rose. I wanted to capture and remember that time, those feelings I had. I had such strong feelings. It was so interesting. I knew we were having a girl before like we even had a positive pregnancy test. I felt this rush of girl energy, and I don't really know how to describe it other than that. And I told my husband, we actually took a test and it was negative. And I told him, I'm pretty sure we took this test too early. I feel this girl energy. We're pregnant. We're having a girl. I know this sounds crazy. And then sure enough, a few days later, we took the test. I was pregnant. And then we did the blood test that showed that we're having a baby girl. And so once we had that loss, I wanted to capture those moments. And I made a photo album. I made a photo album of our family and the things that we did while I was pregnant. And I talked about Lily Rose. I wrote a note to her in the beginning, and then, had captions of the picture like, we were all doing this together, and here's your brother, and your brother loves you so much already, because he would hug me and kiss my belly and talk to Lily Rose. It was really sweet. So that was a wonderful healing journey for me, is to make that photo album. And then I also, her name had just come to me multiple times. It wasn't like, oh, I want to have a baby girl, when I'm in my teens, and I want to name her Lily Rose. I never thought of that before. It was only when I was pregnant the words came to me. So I really, really feel like that's her name, and what's her name is her name. And with that, those are flowers. So it was a perfect segue for me to say, oh, I want to plant some lilies. And that was the first thing we did, was, as far as planting, was plant lilies in the backyard. I'm not a big gardener, so I went to the store. I'm like, I don't know, do you buy a lily plant? Or I found out at least some lilies come in bulbs. So I planted the bulbs in the ground and found out they don't really come up right away. So I had no idea if these things would live or not. I was a little nervous about that piece. Like, I didn't want to plant a tree because I was afraid if the tree didn't make it, I would be really devastated. But I was trying to give myself permission, if some of the bulbs didn't make it, that would be okay. And sure enough, when, I guess it was in the spring, when they did come up, they came up. I saw these little green shoots at first, and now each year these beautiful white lilies bloom, and it makes me so happy. And I think of her precious little pure soul, and I see these beautiful white flowers that are so fragrant. So that's been a really nice healing piece for me. And then we ended up planting a couple of rose bushes in the front as well. So then we have the lilies and the roses. And we celebrate every year on her due date, and then also her loss date, which in some circles it's called their birth date. Sometimes they still have trouble with that terminology, but we end up celebrating her both in May and November because of those dates. And that's a really lovely time for our family to talk about her and remember her. We usually just go outside in nature and go on a hike. Like, sometimes we have balloons, but we don't want to release them into the air and cause any littering or anything like that. So we just have the balloons with us, and then we take them home. Or sometimes we take time to write a note or make a little painting and have that with us. It's just have her in our hearts in a special way on those days. It has really been healing, and we love to do that too. Absolutely, yes. It's really important that the husband, the dad, the partner is involved in the healing process and supporting the woman who's lost their child as well. And a lot of times, it can be different for couples. Different people want and need different things. I think a big piece is to help couples, both the male and the female, remember nothing needs to be fixed. So if one person is talking about the grief or the pain or what happened, sometimes, most of the time probably, we just want to be heard, right? Heard, held. And a lot of times it's great if we can ask, hey, what do you need right now? My heart feels for you because I see you're really sad, and I would love to help. What do you need? And to be able to ask, that's wonderful. And then also being on the other side of that, being able to say, hey, I really need a hug right now, or hey, I really need you just sit by me, or I really need to just hear it's gonna be okay, like we're gonna be okay. Whatever it might be, sometimes it's hard to put our finger on what we need, and sometimes just saying, I don't know what I need is enough too. But if we can ask for what we need, a lot of times that it really helps empower us that we are taking care of ourselves in that way because we're asking for what we need and our partner is there to support us. So after a pregnancy loss, if we're feeling, most of the time we are feeling really sad, but we feel like we're getting stuck in that spot, I find sometimes it's helpful to just get outside and walk. Just walking in nature to change up the setting to get our bodies moving. And I mean that movement just helps realign our systems and our grief and our stress levels, and just helps wake up our muscles and can really make a shift in our emotional state just by getting outside, taking a walk, and especially in nature is a really healing part of a lot of people's journey. If you want to learn more about optimizing your health and your fertility, then follow me and subscribe to learn more.